It doesn't matter whose course you take. It doesn't matter how many books you read. You have to write the story. And from writing the story, which is your expression of the organism, you are the expression of the organism. You are a part of the expression of the organism. If you don't learn how to write that story, you'll be disconnected from the organism, and therefore it'll be harder for you to lead in the way that you're meant to lead. So,
welcome to the Rising Leader Podcast, bringing forth the new wave of rising leadership and helping leaders find purpose, connection, and results. This is your host, founder of Avoidance, Alex Kremer. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Rising Leader Podcast. As always, this is your host, Alex Kremer. The purpose of this show, just to bring us back into why are you here, is to bring forth the new wave of rising leadership, help people feel a greater sense of purpose, a greater sense of self-connection, a connection with others. And oh, by the way, let's drive great freaking results, as always. So I am joined by the incredibly handsome, wonderfully talented Mr. Jake Tacher. So Jake, first off, what's up, brother? It's good to see you.
what's going on? Good to be here.
Man, well, I'll tell you, Jake, you and I had a conversation, I would say it was about 3 or so weeks ago. And just through the conversation, I was like, I vibe with this guy and we think about things very, very similar. And I think within 3 minutes of me talking to you, I was like, I'm going to need you to come on my podcast and just jam out on all this sort of stuff. But Jake, I'm gonna give a little background on you for those who don't know you. You are the CRO and co-founder at Automated Revenue. You're also the CEO and founder of the SDR Whisperer. And last but not least, you are the fractional CRO at Founder OS. You also got some red flowing locks. You got a great beard. You're drinking a kombucha. You got some awesome plants in the background. So the vibe is feeling very strong. So I'll just pause there. Jake, how did I do on your background? Is there anything cool things about you that's important for people to know?
It's a lot of earth tones and a lot of like grass, like green and browns. I just like feeling like I'm in the jungle all the time, basically, or the woods or something. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. So no, that was good background. That's basically what I'm doing right now. So
hell yeah. Well, I'd love just for those who don't know, being the CRO and co-founder at Automated Revenue and the CEO and founder at SDR Whisperer, what does that mean? What are you actually helping people with? What's kind of the unique skill set perspective that you are really helping the sales/corporate world with?
Yeah. So for all effective purposes, Dylan and I, my business partner, are basically co-CEOs of both companies. We'll see how it all kind of shakes out in the end. But as far as like, this is what you should do and this is what I should do, it's starting to do that. Honestly, my business partner is more into revenue than I am. Like he fits that archetype more. I fit the CEO archetype more. But what we're doing is we're focused on solving two really key problems, which is for sales reps, we are helping them train in the hard and the soft skills that it takes to be successful in a sales role. You're more like an athlete than you are an employee, and they're actual just hard, tangible skills, not information. Skills different than just like knowing something or understanding something, which is maybe what school is at least supposed to be good for, versus like a skill set, which is trained. And so our program is heavy on training the important skills required to do well in sales, which just happen to also be important skills required to, communicate in a way that allows you to enjoy a level of freedom in your relationships and your life, and have the same level of discipline and discernment and all that to communicate well. And so people like it for that. We've helped. Like off the top of my head, there's been people that have gone from 0 to big, cool numbers. I don't even want to say them because like people go, oh my gosh, the numbers. And it's like, it's actually hard, but just people that do it and just do the work, they just succeed. And then on the business side, we help companies who deal with an issue which is becoming more prevalent, which is, do I listen to the sales recruiter that I paid? Do I listen to the marketer I paid? Do I listen to that sales rep that's like very heavily invested now into my business because they're maybe at least mostly commission, if not commission only? They're all saying different things. And who do I trust? And how do I choose where to allocate my resources? And I'm paying all these people probably too much money for the stage of business I'm at, but I don't know how to get to the next hump. So we created an offer that says, look, you don't need any of those things. You need some higher level insight that can help you strategically allocate your resources to grow at the pace that you need to grow, but also steadily grow. And so we created a new offer where basically funnels and marketing, recruiting, team, onboarding, SOP, strategy, numbers, metrics, everything that is involved in growing a client acquisition process, we consult on without any sort of incentive structure that makes us care where it comes from or how it happens. It's just about it happening in a way that works. It's the reason why that's, the way we structure the agreements is why you keep us on. And it includes unlimited recruiting, which has solved the massive problem in the space right now, which is, here's a recruit or, we'll replace them for free. And it's like, dude, you actually just can't, you can't afford a free replacement if someone's business model is slapping reps on. What you really need is to make sure your process is good, everything's dialed in so that you have a process of selecting the right reps so that you can actually predictably grow. And it's not going to be 100%, but unlimited recruiting allows it to be less of a, you paid for this, so I need to pay for something super good. And it's more like, we just need to make this work. And it's actually better for everybody if the person works out, but it's worse for everybody if it's the wrong person and we try and make it work out because it's not going to work, which is what everyone's incentivized to align. So we do that for business owners. And then for the higher level, business owners, like only a couple of clients, we'll get in there and be hands-on. We're doing Founder OS. That's where we're doing this right now. That's Matt Gray's company. And so we go in and actually do everything ourselves, which, we'll see. The way we're building it, we're probably not going to really do it that way. But those are the kind of the two or three things we're doing. And I'm mostly focused on product and team.
Okay.
So making sure things work, basically.
So let me ask you this. So when it comes to your training sales reps, both the hard as well as the soft skills that it takes to be successful in a sales role. And I want to just double click into that because, one of the key things that you and I think bonded very well on is, hey, there's two sides of the coin when it takes to actually be, successful in a closing type of position or just a sales type of position. You need to know the process, the skill set, the tactics, the strategies it takes to be very, very good at your role. But there also needs to be that underlying foundation that actually people feel a certain sense of purpose. People feel a sense of meaning. People feel a sense of like calm, groundedness, connectedness to themselves. So when you say, hey, we teach people the hard and the soft skills, I would love if you'd actually give some examples of what do each of those buckets actually comprise of that you're teaching people?
Yeah. So I think even more importantly than deciding what's a hard skill versus a soft skill, I think there are a few skills that are just required in sales for a baseline salesperson that wants to make, a six-figure income, let's say, just bottom level salesperson that all they want to do is make a six-figure income remote. That's like their goal. Active listening, question asking. The words tonality is just used inappropriately, I think, but the ability to control how you speak at all times. And those are probably the as far as ability to navigate a conversation, which is a huge part of sales, the most important skills. And then there just has to be a level of discipline where you do what you say you're going to do. Most people just don't have a relationship to their word where they do what they say they're going to do. They either say what they're going to do and then they constantly change what they say they're going to do. And really none of that carries any weight versus saying maybe I'll do this, but I'm unsure, which would, I think, be better than saying I'm going to do this and then constantly doubling back on that. I think the intention of what you say, and then also the ability to just follow through, which is what I, probably in the world you're in, what I've noticed is that embodiment of the internal work into the actual way you make decisions or live your life. It's just so lacking. I can't tell you how many coaches in the spiritual transformation community, because I'm friends, I'm kind of in that social group and network. I'm like, dude, if you just did these 2 or 3 basic things, you'd be at 20K in 3 months. Come on, maybe faster, but there's just so much caught in the theoretical and the whatever. So there has to be a level of discipline. And then I think the last skill is you just have to be, and maybe this one's, you can get to probably 10, 8 to 10K a month without this one, truly, honestly. You just go like on a steady path and stick with it for like 2 years. But if you want to go faster than that or further than that, you're going to have to have a really, really good relationship with confronting things.
Yes.
And to what you were saying about helping someone else feel comfortable or safe or able to actually tap into the place inside of themselves where the purpose comes from, they're going to have to conflict whatever comes up. And if you are unwilling to do that in yourself, especially in your sales process, and you're just blaming all this other stuff and you're just not really willing to look and you're kind of not able to like, and you think like whatever, I mean, it's like, it's both going to keep you in the same spot because you're not looking, and it's going to keep you in the same spot because how could you ask anybody to look? And they're just they're just not going to, there's something there that'll be lacking for the most part, So, those are probably and then organization is probably like, that's something that'll, if all you did was those first ones and then that got you to 10 or 15K a month and you just got really organized, you'd be at 30 to 40K a month, like, in commissions. So, but it's about just being really, really good at those things. And I think that's what people who are looking into the entrepreneurial space and seeing, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff. And that's the whole shiny object thing, is it's like, you're not actually good at anything. And if you were, things would be different. That's just how it works, so.
I want to touch on two things that you said that I really, really resonated with. The first one is tonality. And, you've heard Chris Voss, obviously. There's been, Jeremy Miner talks about this all the time. Two great sales trainers or sales books that they've written. Tonality is such an important one because, yes, your words are important, right? Having the right script that you actually talk through. But, there's been studies done that they say only 7% of your influence comes from the words that you say, whereas 38% of your influence comes from the tonality from what you're speaking to, and then 55% comes from your energy or your body language. And tonality, you talked, it's about how you control how you speak. From my perspective, it's actually about where are you speaking from. A lot of people, when they're unsure about something, they're speaking from their chest or their neck or their nose, right? Their voice rises, or when they're in a tough negotiation call, whatever it might be, or they get a really hard objection, like, this is how I respond to it, whatever I'm saying. Whereas when you can actually track your tonality and speak from your gut, right? Your stomach, I like to call it your seat of essence. It's sort of your dantian, which is in your hips in meditation language right there. When you're speaking from that place, the frequency is coming, the amplitude of it, like that wavelength there, is way stronger, and it's going to carry way further, right? It's going to feel more trustable to people. And so often people are just thinking like, oh, let me just change the pitch from which I'm speaking at. It's like, that's not it. It's about actually connecting to yourself and speaking from there. I'm curious if that matches, before I kind of go into the second thing you said there, I'm curious if that piece around tonality matches what your view of tonality is.
I think sure. Like, to me, it's less if you access it through practicing it a certain way or assessing where it's coming from, and more about, can I control those variables? Can I make a choice? Can it be intentional? And so, maybe you're practicing speaking from your gut, but you need to learn how to speak from or you want to be able to speak from your wherever else at times. To me, it ultimately comes down to that. That's the skill. The skill isn't just, it happens from here, I'm going to do it from here. The skill is, I can turn it off and choose as I please. That's how I view tonality. So, and that's going to include how it feels and the actual energetic that it comes from. It's also going to include the pitch. It's also going to include the pace, the cadencing. That's one a lot of people, I think, just have no idea what to do with. It's not really talked about. So to me, that's all the same bucket. Yeah, it's interesting. Jeremy Miner teaches and what most sales trainers do is they teach a very simple way to run an entire system or strategy effectively. right? So that's NEPQ. It's like this cohesive strategy that includes all these variables versus, whoever else's program. And so to me, I actually want to be able to do all of those things and make a choice. And then I want the choice to be so embedded into how I do it that it happens instinctually. So I think it's like, and then it's like where do I feel it in my body? And then that's indicative of how I'm doing it or where I'm uncomfortable doing it. Like if you feel yourself tighten up at the end, well, sounds like you're out of control. So it sounds like other things are controlling, not influencing, controlling. Because influence is, I noticed that, and I'm in choice still. And so, and that's what you can control in a sales conversation. That's about it. Like you can't control the other person. You don't want to be honest. Like it's not the goal. So, just having massive control over what's in your control is what makes salespeople good or not, because everyone's got things outside of their control. So it doesn't matter if you're on that easy offer that makes you the bajillion bucks right away, or if you're grinding through it, your skill set is what's going to create the longevity and the predictability and the lifestyle and, the flexibility.
Yeah. I think skill set's definitely important. I don't think it's the whole picture though. I think skill set is an important thing for people to learn and to hone, but a skill set's the easy thing to learn from my perspective. Like you can learn a process. You can learn, what the next steps are to do to have a 4-step process to close a deal with this type of framework. Like that's good. And that's going to help you there. But it's not just about memorizing the skill set. It's about embodying it at a deeper level there. I'm actually having, the tonality of your frequency, of your vibration, of just like, hey man, the transmission of this freaking person feels good. I trust them. They believe in something higher than themselves. They want, like, that's the type of people who, when I think about doing business with, who I think about giving my money to, the people who genuinely want good, who believe in what they do, and they're coming from a level of embodiment that they didn't just simply read in a book. Those are the type of people, from my perspective, I'm like, damn, that person right there, they got what other people don't have. And a lot of it is because they've chosen to face what many people are afraid to do, which I think brings up to the second point that you said, is they have a really good relationship with confronting things. And confronting things is really beautiful. I want to actually just get your curiosity or get your perspective on this. It's like, when you say confronting things, do you mean confronting things within themselves? Right? Meaning, hey, there's a part of me that feels a lot of fear. I have to go and confront that. There's a part of me that doesn't feel enough. I have to go and confront that. Or is confronting things when a prospect is pushing you off and you say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, can I call something out here? Are you just pushing me off and you're never going to buy? Or you're treating me like shit, like I'm just another seller? Or are you actually going to treat me like another human being? Like when you say confronting, is it about yourself, or do you mean is it about with prospects?
I actually just mean that it's a confronting. I mean, it's the skill and it's the relationship to it. And so circumstances wouldn't dictate that if it was truly embodied and if it was something you had agency over, in my opinion. Now, again, the circumstances might influence how you navigate or handle it, but so probably both. It's probably both the things that you said. For me, it's both, anyways, or at least I hope so.
How do you go about confronting? I mean, this is a hard one. I think a lot of people, myself included, millennials specifically, struggle with this. Is they want to be the peacekeeper. They want to be the people that people like, that they're their friends. When it comes to actually confronting things, how does one even think about going about that? Because that's scary.
Yeah. So I came up with this. Well, maybe I didn't come up with it, but it came out of my own brain into also my brain in a weird season of life where I was living in Colombia. I just started entrepreneurship. I was back in Seattle, and I was like, "What am I doing here?" And this girl bought me an Akashic Records reading. So I get this Akashic Records reading, and I have this pretty crazy experience. And at the same time, my mentor at the time, his name was Julian Rosen. He is the man, by the way. Dropped this inner child meditation. My buddy had already done it, and he was like, "Dude, I did it on a microdose." So I went to my brother, got a bunch of mushrooms, not a microdose. I don't know if I can talk about this on this. I don't really know what the rules are.
Hey, we're here. Let's do it.
It's my second podcast ever or whatever. But and I had this whole experience where kind of in that and something else with an intention to go do what the Akashic records told me I was not effectively doing, which was I was constantly trying to deal with things, but I needed to just be with them. And so through that, I developed a relationship to confronting or conflict that allowed my more tender parts to actually feel like they could be in that process also. And so that included first just looking at it, just seeing it. I'm just going to look at the thing. The first step, I'm just going to keep looking at it. And then can I accept what I'm looking at? What does that mean? I'm looking at that. Okay, well, I see that I'm looking at that. Oh my gosh, okay, can I actually just be like, yes, I'm looking at that. Cool. And then what comes after that? And what do I, basically, if I can get myself to that step where I just can look at the thing long enough and choose this is what it is, so I accept it, hopefully the third step is some form of love, which I think comes from understanding, which I think comes from acceptance, which I think comes from at least first acknowledging and seeing. And so to me, that's the process that's worked. Like anytime I notice something that needs to be confronted that I really don't want to, I just look at it for a while. I just don't let myself forget about it. I just am with that. And by the way, if it's an objection on a sales call, this is why you practice it a million times. This is why you practice it even though you know how to do it month in and month out. This is why you've only been in sales for 1 year. You should be practicing the same amount, if not more, you did when in your third month, because now your practice can actually count. And at that level, your ability to practice any level of conflict you have with anything you're doing inside of a sales process or yourself or your life or what you say you should do or you think you should do and you're not doing, or what you think you shouldn't do and you are doing, or, whatever, or this piece of you or whatever, like first things first, just take a look, just peek at it for a while, get to know it. Don't respond, see it for what it is. And then once you've seen it for what it is, it'll be easier to accept it. And once you've really taken time to accept it for what it is, then it'll be easier to understand it. And, at that point, love it or be with it or be connected to it, whatever. I think all of those things, I'm saying the same different words, basically. But.
I think how I receive what you're saying, and this is just a big part of my practice is, for example, there's a part of me that doesn't feel like he's enough. And, that part I've compensated that part by doing a lot, right? Executing a lot. Or at times when I haven't felt enough, I've talked loudly to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. Or I put on this exterior, I'm posting online and posting over here that I've got this amazing life, when there's this deep rooted part that's actually, I don't think I'm enough. And, what I've done, and just through my practice, and it sounds like what you've done, is I actually now go and I sit on a freaking cushion and I sit and I ask that part of me that doesn't feel enough to come out. Right. And I say, hey, what's up? What's your name? How old are you? How long have you been around? What do you want? And I actually bring a deeper level of curiosity. It's like, hey, what color are you? Where are you sitting in my body? Right? What's the temperature? What's the texture? What's the taste? And I just simply bring a level of curiosity in terms of, hey, there's this part of me that I've actually been trying to hide from, or it's kind of the boogeyman that's just oh man, I hope that part doesn't come out right now. Yeah. That I actually just go and I create a relationship with it. And just like you said, I thought this was beautiful. What I do is I take that part wherever I feel it in my body and I actually spread it around my entire body. It's like a thing that most people don't realize. It's if I feel a part of me that's sad, as opposed to pushing away, I actually try to embrace it. I'm let's actually just feel freaking sad. And then realize that there's a positive purpose to that sadness. It just wants to slow down, or it just wants me to love myself, or just wants me to feel safe, whatever it might be. And then I love that part, right? And it's weird because it's when I like that you say it's confront, or it's just accept it. It's hey, this is here. This is all of me. And that way it makes us not so, it's you're not embodying your full self. You're actually just simply, when you actually accept these parts, you confront these hey, I'm fucked up. but like I'm owning that there's parts of me that are fucked up, and it's just it's nourishing in its
Yeah,
own way.
totally. I think that's all confronting is just like, hey, like, oh, actually, like, let's acknowledge this thing right here, like whatever it is, like, and you don't have to make any sort of. I think in conflict, people try and find resolution because like conflict and resolution, conflict and resolution, conflict and resolution, right? Like, but it's like maybe between the conflict and the resolution, like allow for some time. You know what I mean? So, have you ever tried aspecting before? Have you ever done that practice?
What's that?
Okay. So this is a beautiful practice. One of my men's groups I was in, we did this, and then I led a men's group and taught it. And so aspecting, it's very, I mean, I hear you using like IFS language. It's very archetypally kind of like cool thing to do. And so you set up 2 cushions and you think about this part of yourself that you want to actually get to know better. And so, you know, easy mode is like the part of me, like my inner child, or like the part of me that reminds me of this person, or whatever it is. More advanced would be like a very specific shadow part, or specific, you know, like, I've done like a lot of this kind of stuff. So I have like real specific guys I go talk to basically. And you set up the cushion and maybe someone else keeps time. It's beautiful to be witnessed in, by the way, but it's really a self practice. It wouldn't matter if you were or not, but it might be a different experience. So try it. And you literally get into that part on one of the cushions and start talking to self as that part, and just let it come out. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Like don't overthink it. Just let it come out. And it's usually not like one line. It's usually like you got a little bit of something to say, and then you kind of pause once you feel done as that thing. You might just kind of like get yourself out of that zone, you know, shake it off or whatever, and then hop on the other seat and be the other thing talking back and have a conversation for 15 or 20 minutes. So little things like that are super cool. I'd say you should try it. I think you'd like it a lot.
I've done something like that. I haven't called it aspecting, but yeah. I have done where it's like, you know, I've even had it where somebody else will be the personification of, you know.
Yeah, that's a popular one. A lot of journaling exercise that are popular. The cool thing is when it's you, it's like psychosomatic and shamanic, basically, you know, is how it was taught to me by one of my mentors. It's a really, really cool one. In my men's group that I led, we all did it a session, and everyone watched all of the sessions for the last like however many weeks, because you know they take forever. So we didn't do like 8 or 10 or however many dudes there were in one night. And so, no, it's a cool one. And again, one of my best friends I saw confront a part of himself a place I'd never seen him go, a part of himself I had never seen him bring up in the years we've known each other and been close brothers. And so that's confronting. That is confronting.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful to witness another person in their work, right? I mean, like when somebody truly goes there and full sends it. Like I've been part of many different men's groups and done a lot of different types of communities and retreats and things like this. And when somebody full sends it, like screams and yells and hits a bag or just lets it rip and sobs, to witness someone in their work is just like, man, not only do I love that person for just fully going there, it actually gives then me permission to go there as well. And it's just like, there's so much of this weird shit out there that I love that stuff. And I know this was one thing we talked about in our first conversation. I was like, we got to like have a podcast and talk about this. It's like, there's this stuff that so many people aren't doing, right? People who are in corporate, people who are in sales or in leadership, whatever it is, where it's like, just like the do, go, create, hit quota, make money, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, they're conditioned to just like put on this armor all the time. And they have to show up in a specific type of way and just be always great. But there's this like soft underbelly that's like, man, connect with yourself, deal with your shit, feel your anger, feel your your depression, whatever it might be. And what's crazy is like when you actually allow yourself to go there and liberate some of this energy, you start to show up as a better salesperson. You start to show up as a better leader because you're not hiding. You can actually just show up and be fully authentic and your tonality actually starts to come out clearer because you're not holding stuff in any longer. That's what tonality is to me, in my opinion.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's important just to like, look, you got to have whatever it takes to do all of those things, to have all those skills. If you can't listen to yourself, you can't listen to somebody else. If you can't ask good questions that are actually challenging but true to yourself, you're not going to be able to do it for other people. If you can't confront yourself, you're not going to be able to confront other people. If you can't, so, look, like, choose when to put your armor on and when to take it off, but take it off and do those things, and then put it on and do those things. Like, if your armor's never on, you're probably not risking enough. And if your armor's never off, you probably have no idea what you're doing. So probably just
let me ask you this, and I know that we're just about getting up at time here, but my question is like, hey, you've been working with a lot of corporations, you've been working with a lot of leaders on their go-to-market strategy, on building out their sales team, all that sort of stuff. This piece right here that we're speaking to, that I don't know if this is what you'd coin the soft skills, but that soft underbelly side. Do you talk about this with corporations? Are leaders actually talking about this, like doing the work sort of thing from your perspective?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I think it might not sound the same when different people talk about it, but yeah, absolutely. Like, I think especially in sales, when people talk about sales reps, in the info space, in the software space, and all sorts of spaces, they understand that, I mean, look, it's like sales is run by sales people for the most part, and so they usually know what it takes at the end of the day. If they're good leaders, they lead. They don't just talk. They lead. They don't just coach. And so, it might sound more like, like you might translate something to what does work ethic mean to somebody? What does accountability mean to somebody? What does micromanaging mean to somebody? What is, what do these jargony words actually mean? But no, totally. People are talking about it. Like, one of the companies, and this is kind of my new thing, is like, we only hire down motherfuckers. That's it. Just down motherfuckers. So
what does that mean?
You gotta be able to have the quality to burn the ships and like go all in, or like it's not going to work. But if you do, and by the way, that's something that you have to confront on the inside, especially if you've never gone all in before, if you've had bad experiences in the past. I've seen too many sales reps act out of what happened in the past versus what they want in the future. So like, if you interview with me and you want to work at that company, which is, doing pretty good, and it's with a big influencer that most people would know the name of, and you're just interviewing with me to protect yourself from whatever was happening before happening, I don't think you're probably ready. It doesn't sound like you're ready. And it sounds like you're just, versus like, if you understand what that is and understand what you need to be and how you need to represent yourself to attract in the new place, it's just completely different. And so, yeah, tons of people are looking for that. I don't think they know how to evaluate that the right way. And I think the biggest issue with leadership inside of these companies that are trying to assess sales talent is they're just not really taught how, due to some of the reasons I talked about in the beginning, where they're getting sort of biased input from different people that say different things. And the people that have done it all and just get the job done, the people you want to work for, they're gonna care about that a lot. I just was listening to a podcast of a guy, and this, if you know Matt Ryder, dude was literally a sniper. So Matt Ryder was the CEO of Seventh Level, Jeremy Miner's company, and then also created he has a small sales agency. It's probably not that small, called Sales Sniper. And they basically can take control of everything because the guy's just willing to confront whatever problem's in the way. And so, to him, he's like, yeah, no, like, actually we need, like, he has a boot camp where he just tries to scare you out in the first couple of weeks as a sales rep, because he knows if you make it to the other side, you'll do really well and fit the culture and it'll be all good. But that's massively confronting to people. Some people will say it's unfair. Some people say it's this, but he's just like attracting what he wants. And to me, that is like, there's a control there. It's like a choice. I'm not going to create a boot camp. That's not like my style, but I will make a choice of. And so, yes, there definitely are people in leadership, and most people in leadership know exactly who they're looking for.
Yep.
The bigger the company, the more exact. And, so they're going to require you do whatever it takes to get to that point. And a lot of people know that either some sort of like good culture or internal, if it's more autonomous, internal resolve is going to matter. So,
I think this is like the big piece that the corporate world, that leadership, that sales teams are really asking for more than ever. It's like, yes, work on the skill set, but more than anything, do your work. Like, do your work of actually figuring out who you are, confront your shit. Like, and actually, leaders, what people want from a leader is someone who's going to make them better. And when, the way that you make people better is you confront their shit. You confront them and call them and point out their blind spots. You're not just being their friend. But the only way that a leader is in integrity with being able to do something like that is that they have to be doing their work themselves. They have to be willing to be called forward. They have to be willing to go deep and actually see the parts of themselves that they've been afraid to do. Because everybody has had a leader that said, do as I say, not as I do. I freaking hate that statement. It's like one of my least favorite things. I'm like, no, that's like bullshit right there. Like, if you're calling me forward to do something, be in integrity with it yourself. And that underlying piece of like, hey, are you actually figuring out what your authentic version of you is and actually willing to go and see that deep, dark cave that you're like, I don't know what's in there, but I'm willing to go and confront it.
For sure.
So, Jake, I have one final question for you. But before I do, I just want to acknowledge you, man. And I just want to thank you for just showing up and being raw and being real. This is exactly what I was hoping and expecting for this conversation. So you have not just hit, but you've exceeded my aspirations for this episode. But here is my question for you. The show is called the Rising Leader Podcast. I would be curious, from your definition, right, of being a leader yourself and witnessing all these other leaders of companies, what do you view as the rising leader?
What do you mean by what do I view as the rising leader?
Yeah, what is the rising leader that is coming through in the world today? What is the leader that the world is actually needing? The rising leader. What are their qualities, their characteristics?
Yeah, I think, man, it's honestly, in my opinion, way too hard to like blanket that. The way I see the world or society is that of an organism, more like an organism. So if I say like, we need an arm, it's like, okay, cool. But like, we also need a leg and we need a knee and we need a foot and we need and we need the foot to be the foot, not the arm. We need there's this biblical passage that talks about there's one body is made up of many parts, and the parts can't say, I don't need you. You're supposed to treat the different parts the way that they're supposed to be treated. You don't treat them all the same. And so to me, a rising leader is someone who can take ownership over who they are and what their role is and play it and just do what that thing is and acknowledge the other thing that's doing what it's supposed to do. And so, unless anyone's able to claim that they are the command center of that organism in their individual incarnation or whatever, like I don't think I know the rising leader you're supposed to be. I think you have to figure out how the fuck the rising leader you're supposed to be. And that's why it doesn't matter whose course you take. It doesn't matter how many books you read. You have to write the story. And from writing the story, which is your expression of the organism, like you are the expression of the organism. You are a part of the expression of the organism. If you don't learn how to write that story, you'll be disconnected from the organism, and therefore it'll be harder for you to lead in the way that you're meant to lead. So that's my answer. I have the answer for myself, and that changes pretty frequently. Some things underlyingly stay the same, but for the most part, it's just, I think, know what you're leading and know what you're following, and you'll figure it out eventually. If you're hopefully,
I love it. I think it's just about that personal journey of figuring out who is you. Jake, I got a question for you. If people are like, damn, this guy Jake knows some shit, I want to get in touch with him, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, so I'm about to begin my like content, social media kind of thing. I just had to figure out how I wanted to do that. And I just decided I'm going to try and teach as much for free as I can, basically, is what I'm going to do. And like, and not just teach, but express as much like honestly as I can, basically, about what I'm going through, what it takes, what it's like, stories of people. And so the best way to engage with any of that or to reach out to me would be right now on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm about to join X or Twitter and LinkedIn. And then the YouTube channel hopefully is before the end of the year. But I'm Jake Tacher on any of those platforms. You can see the hair in the picture. I'm like getting it cut. I need a new headshot. But Jake Tacher on Facebook, Jake Tacher on Instagram. It'll be Jake Tacher on Twitter and Jake Tacher on LinkedIn. Those are the best places to reach out to me.
Aho. Well, Jake, thank you so much for being on the show, my friend. And for all those who are listening, make sure you share this with somebody who I know needs to hear it. And with that, have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jake.
You got it. Yep. Thanks, man.